Here they come. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to some of you. Welcome for the first time, some of you.
Definitely.
Hello.
Exciting.
It's been an action-packed day.
It has. We're nearly there.
Yeah.
Through our first day.
Exactly. It is, and it's so nice to have so many folks joining us. It's a real treat.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. If so, please do use the chat to kind of let us know where you're tuning in from. It's been really amazing to see how like global some of the kind of folks joining us are.
Yeah.
It's really very special. It feels like a proper kind of international event.
People in America.
Yeah.
I think someone in Australia popped up.
Yeah.
And obviously people in the UK.
Yeah.
You guys too.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And there are some people in France.
Look,
as well.
Someone from Stamford Courtenay and Devon. I was in Stamford Courtenay about a week ago. It's like literally just like, I don't know, 5 miles down the road. Near and far, wherever you're joining from, welcome and thanks for deciding to spend the weekend with us. My name is Sonia.
And I'm Laura.
And we are joined by Cinthia, who has created this incredible book, but also a whole menagerie of amazing woolly animals. So without further ado, we'll introduce you properly. Or maybe we can allow you to introduce yourself. Could you start at the beginning for us, please? When did you create your first knitted toy? And was it Tsutsu Bear?
No, my first, it was in 2018. So now it's like 4.5 years. And it was Myrtle Bear, a big bear that I can show you. I forgot to take it. Here it is. It's Myrtle Bear. It was the very first bear. And here is wearing one of the first version of Mouche pajamas.
Yeah.
So this is not the original outfit of my first design, but this is my first design. And Mouche is quite similar. It was really a tribute to my first design that I wanted to have Mouche in the book, but I didn't want it to be really the same. So the character is different, but the morphology and the design are quite similar. But there is still a difference in technique. So for people who would have made Myrtle at the very beginning, it would be a bit different to make Mouche now, but they could share their clothes. And I really wanted to include Mouche in the book to just make a link and a circle with my very first design. So this is Myrtle Bear. And it was made in Viola yarn that you had a special yarn. Yeah. And I really love her yarn. And at the very beginning, I really wanted to design my first design in a fingering weight yarn.
And do you mostly use fingering weight?
Yes, I mostly use fingering because I find it more easy to develop a design with some details and some nuances. I don't know if it's the right word in English, but it's more easy to design this way. But then you could knit it in different weight of yarn if you don't like to knit in fingering, or if your hands are hurting when you knit in fingering weight yarn. But I like to design them this way because I see things more in detail with a small gauge and a small yarn. And also, I think it's really nice to play with. So when you make for kids, for example, it's really a nice size also to play with, or if it's for adults, it's also a nice size to have around like you have behind you. So it makes small animals that you can have sometimes in your pocket. Or I really like this weight of yarn. It's my favorite.
From the beginning, have they always had clothes? Because I think that's one of the most magical things about your creatures is they get outfits and they get to dress up. And what you just said about them being able to swap outfits is
Yes, from the beginning they had clothes, but at least one. But it's true that I developed more and more clothes for each design as I was progressing myself in designing. So I really wanted them to have clothes from the beginning because I really wanted them to be playful, and I really wanted that people could feel like playing with them. Or if it's for kids, it's really nice to have clothes because I really think the playing starts with being able to dress and undress. And if it's for other people, it's important too, because it really gives some personality, and it's also the starting point for imagining stories or stuff like this. So at the beginning, my first design, my two first one, it was Myrtle, and the second one was the lion, Winston Lion.
Winston.
I focused a lot on the techniques of the animals themselves, so they had less options to dress in the patterns. But as long as I was going on in my designing process, I tried to add more options in all the patterns at each time. And I think it's also because I got this bug myself of playing with this. So there are more options for Bunny Odile, and there are a lot of options for Sadie Souris. And in the book, also, I kept going and imagine more options to dress them, especially for the pants, the trousers, the dungarees, and stuff like this for the bottoms.
So it's been evolving then. We've got Andrea is saying that they've made a Winston and they absolutely love their Winston. So I think that's one of the magic things about knitting, isn't it? Is that you kind of write the recipe and then other people can go away and have that creative process. And like you say, because they get dressed, it turns into a real act of play, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's really nice. I'm happy to hear that Winston can be enjoyed too, because I love him. I really love him, but I know it's quite challenging to make all the loops. So it's always a good news when I hear news from Winston.
So cute.
Oh, we just had a question as well. Do you know the word in French for fingering yarn?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not the best person to ask this, because I've always learned. I've always knitted and learned about knitting in English. So I'm quite used to the English terms, but I'm not used to the French terms. But I'm not sure we have an equivalent. Maybe we would say sock yarn rather, so laine à chaussette. And we use fingering. We just say fingering when we are aware about these categories. People who are using these categories, I think they just say fingering too. Yes, I see someone from France say chaussette peut-être. Yes, I think it's how we use this.
Yeah.
And then Andrea said that the mane is the best bit and is encouraging people to try the loops.
Yes, I think it's quite, I'm okay with this. It's just that you must be aware that you're going to go through slow knitting for a while, but then you're going to see the man of your lion just becoming thicker and thicker, and it's really very rewarding to do it. Yes, I also encourage to give it a try. It's just, in the end, it's just like you feel like you're very happy to do this with your
yeah, so. Look at that.
Yes, it's really rewarding to do this. But I also had people who told me when I first showed Agi's vest. Some people told me, oh, I would love to make the Agi's vest, but I won't, because I'm just too. I had the worst souvenir with the loop from Winston, or I loved making the loop, but it was really hard. But I heard this, and this is why I designed the Agi's vest separately, because I didn't want, I wanted to offer the pleasure of making loops to people, but without the need of really having a dense fabric. So the loop from Agi's vest are easier to do than the loops from Winston, because on Winston you had to make the loop on what will become his skin. So we needed loops that were really tight and that were creating a dense fabric. But with Agi, it's only a garment, so we don't need such a tension. So it's really a nice occasion to try the loops without the tension of Winston Lion.
Can we see Agi with her vest on? Because Agi is a sheep as well, so that sort of means that Agi can be shorn. If the loops are like Agi's fleece, it's sort of like
yes, it's also the way in my process. It's also the way I work. For example, I wanted to make this sheep, but I knew from the beginning that it would be probably too painful to make loops directly on her body, all around her body. And because I really want to offer an enjoyable process, this is how I started to think about having a fleece that could be removable. And finally, I made this choice because of the process. But in the end, I think it's a good choice because it adds more fun to the design. And you can imagine that she can be sheared. No, sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So finally, the main reason was the easiness of the process, but in the end, I think it's really nice to have her this way.
Could you show her up for folks at home as well? Do you have Agi to hand?
Yes, I have Agi. I can show her. She just here is Agi, but she's wearing Mary Molly outfit. I think, Sonia, you made Mary Molly.
I have, yeah,
yes.
twice. I have made the mold twice.
Yes, so she's not wearing a proper clothes because I'm currently trying to picture them in different garments, because people often ask me who can wear other clothes. I'm really designing each garment, each outfit for a specific character. I'm not looking for outfit to be swapped, but when it can happen, it's really nice. So it's something that I try afterwards. I'm not doing it before, but then I'm always happy to try because myself I have surprise. And so she's wearing
you hold her a little closer because she's got such a lovely face.
Yeah,
look,
it's funny, just those few little stitches that make the face is what gives it life.
Yes.
Character. Yeah.
Yes, it's really the moment when the characters takes life. It's at when you start just knitting. I don't know if I have an example. For example, I'm working on a little bunny at the moment, the tiny bunny, and you can see that the shape is starting to appear. But then what is really magical is when you just start to add the features. So for example, the same step, but just with the eyes in addition. And then when you add the little embroidery for the nose and the mouth, and it makes it all. Yes, it's really the moment when you start to have a very alive character. So, and you can see on this one, for example. So this is one of the things I love in the process, and this is what I really want to achieve. This one is Horatio the donkey, and you can see that it's really, we are really early in the process of making him, but he's already really very alive because he's got his eyes on, and he's got almost his nostrils and his mouth. Yeah. So from the very beginning, it's really something that is very alive. And this is also why I really love the seamless process. We already talk about this sometimes, but it's it's very convenient because you are going to have the characters all the way down on your needles and you're not going to assemble anything. So it's quite a good point for the convenience aspect. But it's also really nice because you're starting to have something very alive on your needle from the very beginning. And even if you're not down with the characters, you already have a sort of relationship with it while you're knitting.
Lovely. You don't have to wait till sewing up to sort of.
Yes, it exists from the very beginning. And
the
there's
instructions, you tell people to go ahead and like stuff the face and embroider the face, which really helps me finish, because
Yes.
then I feel like I start feeling guilty if I don't work on them for a little bit, because it's like,
Yes.
oh, but they've only got one arm, you know.
Yes, and also just because you can you're not going to let it in your project bag or in the bottom of a drawer. You see this one, I know I have to finish it, it's just on my desk and I see him every day, so I know that I'm going to finish it and I'm not going to forget about it.
Definitely. I could keep asking you questions for hours, but it's not fair because we've got so many people in the chat who are also have questions.
Okay.
So I'm gonna read out some of their questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first we've got Gloria, who says she is working on a Horatio. And she says it's great that there's lots of kits available, and it would be nice to have more kits. So I know that's more for the yarn companies, but we do have a couple. We've got kits for Hazel and we've got some kits for Mouche on our website. But she also says that your instructions are excellent in capital letters.
Thank you very much.
She appreciates the detail and the stitch count. Gloria's working on the back pockets for the dungarees and wants to know, what does legs turned up mean? So so the legs are facing upwards. This is maybe, Gloria, this might be a bit technical.
Yes, I always say when you have questions, I'm very, very happy to answer. You can reach out by mail, and if you have any questions such as technical question, you can just send me an email and I really help about the question specifically.
Perfect. So if you just go ahead and email Cinthia, and then Cinthia can explain about which way the pocket.
Yes, I do this from time to time. There is no problem about this. So my email can be easily found on my Ravelry page, and I also have a contact form on Instagram. So it's really the best way to do, and I'm happy to help, really.
And then we've got Broomies is saying, would you recommend which animal to start with? They have the book, but there are so many animals in the book that they're not sure which one to start with, and they've got paralysis. So do you have a favorite, or is there one that you recommend people start with?
I don't have a favorite, because each time I make a new one, sometimes I think it's going to be my favorite, but it's not the case. I love them all, but maybe to start, if you're afraid of something too tiny, or afraid of something with too much details, or if it's just your first time, maybe simply starting with Mouche, it would be a good choice. Because it's quite simple to make. There is no little detail to focus on, such as changing the stitch for the head, for example. So I would say Mouche to start. And yes, it could be a nice choice. But I would say that some of them are more tricky, like, oh yes, you're showing. So for example, the pajamas is going to be more challenging in terms of focusing when knitting, but Mouche also has dungarees, and his dungarees are quite easy to make.
We went dungarees, so that's why we had to make a
yes, I know. I started to knit the Horatios dungarees in fingering weight yarn with your Exmo sock yarn.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because I'm hoping it to fit Agi. So I will.
Sheep in dungarees.
Yes, I would love her to be in dungarees. I was very inspired by Katy illustrations. So I thought that the dungarees, yes, I absolutely love this drawing. And I think that Horacio's dungarees knitted in fingering weight yarn will be perfect for Agi.
Oh, wow. Well, people will have to stay tuned to see how that works.
Yes, I will show you. I will show you. So just to finish on the question, yes, give a start with Mouche, and maybe also the little duckling can be also nice to start with, because they are quite quick to make. So it depends. I think it depends on what worry you the most. If you like to start with something quite quick, you can start with a small animal because it's going to be faster to make, and maybe this can motivate you. And if it's not a problem for you to make a bigger animal, but you are looking for a more quiet process, then Mouche is perfect to make with these dungarees.
And then we've got Caroline is saying, you're very talented, and she loves your creations, and she's saying that she had a go at trying to design an animal but just didn't know where to start. So if you could talk to us a little bit about like how do you decide which animals, and then how do you study the animal in order to like translate, because one of the things that's most amazing is all you have to do is look at their little faces and you know exactly what creature they are. So how does that kind of thought process work?
When I decide what animal, maybe I can tell also how I decide what animal to make, because I know sometimes people ask about this. I always have a long list of animals I wish to make. And sometimes the final click comes from the yarn I have at hand, or the yarn that are proposed to me, or the yarn I'm coming across. And this is often with the yarn as a starting point that I start thinking of an animal. So it's, for example, it's the case for Mouche, because I had this vanilla yarn right here. And this is how I thought about making a spirit bear or Kermode bear, which is a sort of vanilla bear, maybe because it's albinos or something like this. I think it's the reason why. So it's a sort of bear that are not very known, but this is because of the yarn that I wanted to make him. And so it often happened like this. It's the same for Horatio, because when I had the Rachel's yarn, daughter of the shepherd yarn, it was very rustic, and I really felt inspired to make a donkey, because this is how I see donkey, with a really beautiful skin, but it's quite rustic, and Rachel just have this yarn which is amazing when it's knitted, because I really feel like we can get the look and the feel of a true animal when it's knitted so tightly. So here also I had a donkey in my list probably, but it's really when I had the yarn in hand that I could decide for the donkey at that point. So it's often a meeting between what I have in mind and what yarn I'm coming across. And then when I decide, it's a lot about, I'm not trained as a designer, or I'm not trained as a stylist, so I don't know how to draw. I don't know really how to make mood boards or stuff like this. And I think I would be slowed down if I would try to make this. So it's more about observation. So I observe pictures and video of the animal. I try to get what makes him special, what makes it special, and what I like in this animal. I try to see what are their characteristics, or what characteristic is the most important to make it look like what it is. And so that's the first step, and it's something I always do. I always save a lot of pictures and videos of animals. And then I also look a lot at what they look in illustrations, because I really, really love illustration from kids' books. It's something that I have at hands all the time. So I also look how illustrators are representing animals, and this way I develop a sort of dictionary in my mind, a sort of repertoire, and I work from this. And then I try to tell myself, or to make a special brief to myself, to underline the characteristics that are very important, the one I want to keep, the one I would like to show. And it's a sort of guidelines book for myself. And after this, I just make a lot of trials to move on and to see how I can translate into knitting the shape I would like to underline. So that's the main step of my process. But it's a very empirical process. It's not, in French we would say c'est de la petite cuisine. I don't know how to translate this in English, but it's like cooking that you would improvise also, in a way.
So when you start a new animal, do you have to sort of knit the head and then do it again and again till you get just the right shaping to get the head right?
Sometimes I get the right shaping, and sometimes I really have to make a lot of heads and see. And sometimes I think it's going to be the right head, and in the end, when I stuff it, I see that it's not the thing. It's not exactly what I want to have, or I don't feel like having the animal I had in mind when I'm looking at it. So I restart again. And sometimes it works well from the beginning. I just get the shape I wanted, and it's not only wanting a shape, it's just that when I look at the animal, I must feel, okay, I recognize you, and it's the one you're the one I was looking for. But yes, that's a love story. It's about a lot about a love story, and I feel I got the right head when I'm really had this feedback from the animal. Just okay, hello.
So you're like waiting to find the new animal,
Yeah.
living in the stitches almost. That's lovely. We've got Christine McKenzie is more practically asking, what kind of needles do you use? So you're looking for quite a dense fabric, aren't you? Because it's a toy, so none of the stuffing peeks through. So how do you kind of decide what needle size to use?
Well, I'm more used to the long circular needle with the technique of magic loop, because I learned this way. But it's only there is no. I'm not recommending a specific setup of needles for this. I recommend to use the one if you already used to knit small circumferences in the round. But when I say small, I'm talking of really small, like glove finger, for example. If you already knit with double pointed needles or magic loop, or just keep going with this technique, because my instructions are written for every technique. They are not mentioning distribution of stitches or such a thing. So you can really work with any techniques. On my side, I work with magic loop because I'm the most used to this technique. But I also used DPNs to see how it goes, to try to see how it goes for people who are using DPNs. But it's harder for me because I'm not really skilled with DPN. And I know that a lot of people that likes DPN to knit small circumferences in the round also like to switch to this one, the Agi Crazy Trio, and they find these knitters say that they're quite nice to knit my design when they are already used to double pointed needles. It's a bit like it's a bit I'm looking for the words. something that is in the middle between magic loop and double pointed needles. So it's quite nice to use this one too. And
are they all done on the same size of needle?
when they are on fingering weight yarn, they are all done on the same size, 2 millimeters needles for me. But I know that some people are switching on 2.25, for example, so that they can get more comfortable knitting. For me, it's comfortable on 2 millimeters needle, but this is really an advice that I'm giving in the book and in my pattern. Just give a try of the beginning of the design, start to knit. And if it's really too tight using the 2 millimeters needle, then try just a quarter size up, or don't stay with something that is not comfortable. It has to be dense, it has to be a tight gauge, but it must remain comfortable to knit. So it's not a struggle all the knit all the way along to get to the end. So this is something that each one can try and see what combination works well for them. And when I knit in sport weight yarn, I have 3 designs in the book, if I'm not mistaken, that are in sport weight yarn. I use 2.5 needles, but it's the same. I know that some knitters just switch on 2.75, for example. So it's really, you need to give it a try to be sure that it's nice for you.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got Joanna is asking, when will the tiny bunny pattern be available? But it already is available, isn't it?
No, it's not already available.
Bunny?
It's touring for a few workshops actually.
Okay.
I started to designing for workshop because it's really small. So it's easier to cover the techniques with a really small
So it's
design.
a really tiny. Do you have a finished tiny bunny?
Yes, I'm going to show you. Yes,
bunny?
I have one. That's just for scale. This is the bunny Odile, my very first bunny. She's naked. I'm sorry, but she had her clothes borrowed by someone else. And I must add that my youngest daughter plays a lot with all the samples. So sometimes I find them naked. So that's the original bunny Odile, and that's the tiny bunny.
Oh.
So it's really smaller. So this is why I designed it for workshop, because you have a small head, so you can cover more quickly the techniques that are involved. So and I also like playing with scale, so because it's also playful to imagine that the characters can have some relatives, either kids or nephews or nieces or anything. So this is why I like to play with this case. And so to answer the question, I'm working on it, and I'm working, especially the bunny itself is ready, but I'm working on its clothes actually currently. So I started to
tiny bunny.
I started to work on new garments. I also want to work on new construction for this one, because it's nice to explore different constructions. So this little top is constructed differently than my other. I try to change at every design. I like to try new things. So this is the starting point of its wardrobe. And so I'm currently going on. And I had hoped to have it ready for the summer, but I think it will be rather the beginning of fall. I don't want to rush on it. I want to take the time to explore what I want to make for the outfits. And we were talking about the needles, so I can show you too that I made a even smaller one. I used the 1.5 millimeters needle, so even thinner needle. So you can see that it's even smaller than the other one.
Get smaller and cuter, and we're just like chewing over them.
It's even
so like they're so joyful.
So it's not done, but you get to see it in advance. to get to see how it's being developed. And it's the example of how this is why I really recommend to give a try to the combination of yarn and needles you have in mind, because for example, for this one, I had this 1.5 millimeters needle in stash for a long time, and I never gave them a try, and I was expected it to be quite difficult to knit. And finally, with this yarn, which is a fingering weight yarn, but it's quite thin, it was really smooth to knit it on 1.5 millimeter needle. It was not painful at all for the hand. It was really smooth. And this is not what I expected. I expected to struggle a little more. And finally, it was really nice. So it's always important to try your own combination of yarn and needle size when you plan a project. It's really important, because on the other end, sometimes I think something is going to be really nice, and I see that I struggle because the yarn just doesn't slip on the needles correctly, and sometimes it's not what I am expecting on the good side or on the wrong side. So always try it.
Definitely. And if you're listening to this thinking, oh my God, that sounds so tiny, I've seen versions as well where people use double knitting or like worsted weight, and you can just use a bigger needle, and then you just end up with a really big stuff.
Yes, you're right to give. Yes, you're absolutely right to give this precision, because it's not because I'm designing on thin yarns that you have to knit in thin yarns. It's very easy to substitute yarns. The only thing you have to look for is the right size needle to get the tight tension and to keep the comfort of knitting. But make this try. If you feel that it's too hard for your hands to knit with small needles and fingering weight yarn, just look for the yarn you love, the yarn you want to work with, and then look for the right needle size, and everything is going to be well, and you will end with a bigger toy in the end, but it will work very well too.
We've got quite a lot of folks asking about stuffing as well. So do you have any tips for how much stuffing you would use, or kind of methods for getting the stuffing into like the ends of the feet and like all those hard to reach bits?
Do you have
Yes, I can. Well, my secret, it's not a big secret. I'm talking about this in the book too. It's really having a collection of chopstick. When you eat Chinese food or Asian food, just keep the chopstick you get sometimes. And when you're about to stuff, it's a shame because I don't think I have one to stuff yet. Oh, just maybe I have something to show you. Yeah. So this is, imagine that this is a Billy the raccoon who is in process. So just imagine that we are done and everything is done. So you have the whole animal skin. You will have an opening between the legs at the crotch. And with this chopstick, you can push really easily right from you just insert some stuffing inside, and then you use the stick to push everywhere you want to push. So if you need to, let me show you, I'm sorry, I'm moving. So this is the stuffing I'm using. I will tell what it is just after, but if imagine you're going through the opening via between the legs, you push a little quantity, for example, at the entry of the arm, for example, and then you just use the chopstick to push to the end. So, for example, I didn't do it well to show you. For example, this one, the little paw is really, really small. So you're going to start with a really small amount of stuffing. You put it at the opening of the arm. Even if you start from really below, it's the same process. And with the chopstick, you're really pushing So for example, this is why I try to collect many chopsticks, because for example, this one is quite large and this one has a section which is really more narrow. So I'm going to use this one to push the stuffing to the end of the paw. And when I'm sure that the end of the paw is really stuffed right here, I'm going to keep going until all the arm is done. And it's the same for the little feet. When you're stuffing the legs and the feet, you can do exactly the same movement with the chopsticks. So it's not because you're processing through a small opening that it's difficult to make, but you need to have a few tools like this just to make it easy. And it's the same for the little nose. You must remember about pushing small amounts of stuffing right to the tip of the nose before filling the rest of the head. And I love to use wool for stuffing. This is really my favorite stuffing because it's really firm. You can push it. It's almost like if you were modeling some clay in the end. So it's really nice to give the shape, the final shape to your animal, and it really helps out to make the most of the knitting you already made. And it stays also, it remains quite firm when the animal is used a lot. It's different for the polyester, which is getting more smooth by the use.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did have a couple questions as well about how to clean your animals. So if you do have kids and your kids are playing with the toys, then do you have any tips on once they've been stuffed, if if they end up in some chocolate milk or something, what is it?
Well, I to be honest, I never tried the washing machine yet. It's something that I will try, so I can tell you. But I had an accident with all my first samples one time because they were traveling back from Amsterdam, where they spent a few days in Stefan and Penelope shop, and I let them in a cardboard box. And my cat went into the cardboard box and thought it was the place to make his needs. So I think it was worse than milk from kids or so.
It doesn't get worse.
I had to wash them all, and I wash them by hands just in a basin. Is it the right word in English too?
Yeah.
And with a wool soap, and then I removed the spots and I washed them with my hand and took the water out by rolling into oh my God, I forgot the name. Into a towel to just take the water out, and then after I regave them some shape with my hand, and it was all fine. Just let them dry, and it was really all fine. This one was one of the poor creature who had to be into this bath because of the cat.
That's a naughty cat.
I was out of the house. Maybe he was feeling lonely.
Feeling lonely.
Yes,
I mean, you probably paid some attention after that.
Yes, absolutely. Too much woolly animals for him here.
We've got Gloria is just asking again about the stuffing. So I think you're saying that you just use wool, but like washed wool. So we do have some kits on our website, Gloria, and we actually provide broken tops, which is like a byproduct of our spinning. But if you just Google washed wool or scoured wool, I'm sure you'll find wool local to you.
Yes, I found the first one I got was from UK, but then when I ran out of stash, I got one from France. I have a big bag of wool. You see that
any old wool, it doesn't matter what wool. The main thing is it hasn't been spun yet. So
yes,
as long as the wool is not turned into yarn, it will work perfectly.
Yes, and it's really a nice material to stuff toys. I really like it. I really like the way you can make the most of your animal by modeling, truly almost modeling it, thanks to the wool.
I think we could talk to you for hours, but there's sadly only 10 more minutes left. So I just wanted to say that in case anyone else has any other questions. And if you could show us maybe one more creature from this very intriguing pile behind you, Cinthia.
Yes, absolutely.
And then if anyone does have any other questions, please do go
Yes.
ahead and type them in.
I have maybe also two questions that I'm going to answer quickly because I got them from Instagram. So if you're okay, I'm just going to answer them and then I will show you little Hazel. Let me see. It was the first question. The first question was from Marina. Maybe she's here. And she said, I'm curious about how you choose which animal and do you plan to make a dog? So about how I choose which animal, I think I answered just before. It's a lot about the coincidence between the yarn I have and the list I have in my mind. So it often happen like this. And do I plan to make a dog? Yes, I would love to make a dog. I have a dog myself and I love dogs. And it's still in process in my mind because I have to figure it out what kind of dog I want to make because they have so different morphology. So it's still something I have in mind. It's in process and I would love to make a dog.
You could probably do a whole book of just dogs.
I could do a whole book of just dog and it would be a wonderful morphology exercise for me, I think.
Yeah,
so it would be really a challenge and I would learn a lot from making this, absolutely. And the second question was from Makers Bujo. She said, will you host a knit along for your beautiful Nana or other friends? Nana is the lady duck, but I think Makers Bujo was intending any knit along maybe. So yes, I would like to make a knit along. I'm currently thinking about it and I will share more on Instagram soon about this. So absolutely, I'm going to host one. So that's it for the two questions I have. And so I wanted me to show a few animals. So this is Hazel, which is made in the knit by numbers from you. And I really, that's also an example of the animal I decided because I looked at the shade card from Knit by Numbers, the copper gradient just caught my eyes and I wanted to, wow, hello. So there are so many options for the dress. If I had enough time, I would have loved during the book process knit just dress from all the shade card of Knit by Numbers. I love the blue too. It's really nice. But I had this skein of ordinary Joe from the, and I just love the name of this color, Ordinary Joe. So sometimes I just keep a color because I love the name of the color. So I wanted to include it in the dress. So this is Hazel. I think you have some kits for her to make.
Her ears as well are very special. Yeah, that's another question we've had is where do folks buy the book and the kits? So we have kits for our for Hazel the Squirrel and also for Mouche on our website. And then we've got a couple copies of the book on our website as well. But I think if people just have a Google, they'll be able to find someone selling the book local to them.
Yes, and you have a list of the stockists on Len Publishing website also.
We've put some links to where those things can be found on our website in the chat, but also don't buy the book from us if you live in the US. You know,
yes, I think you can
somewhere local. Save yourself the shipping. So. Yes,
and about the kits, I just wanted to add that I really love when kits are made. When I have a partnership or collaboration with a yarn, just like with you or a few other yarn makers that took part in the book. So it's really nice. It's really an important collaboration for us. But on the other end, if you can't get an access to this kit, if it's not easy for you, if you already have a lot of yarn in your stash, it's also animals that you can make with not a lot of yarn. And even if it's not the original yarn, you're gonna be able to be happy making it with something else. So I'm very happy if you get a kit, but if it's difficult for any reason, then you can make it with any yarn, any other yarn.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that's really lovely, because they're such small creatures. Like, one of the reasons I made Merry Mole 3 times over is because I was knitting a jumper that had some like brown mohair lace. And then I had all this brown mohair lace left over. And I was like, if I put that together with a grey, then that's the perfect mole colour. So
Yeah.
I just made enough moles to use up my little bit of brown mohair lace. So I think
Yes.
really, go stash diving.
Yes, it's
right.
important. I'm always happy having a collaboration. It's just the most wonderful project, but I don't want people to feel like they have to find a kit to make it. I think just give it a try with any yarn you have if it's easier for you.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that really shines through with the animals and with the book, is it's so playful, and you're really encouraging people to just get creative and, make it their own. So
Yes, that would be a shame to feel that you must stay in the frame of something. So yes, it's really important to feel free to, and you can see how all the animals that are made are really truly unique in the end, because of the way you make the face, the way you stuff, the color you choose. So it would be a shame if we all had the same one.
definitely. We've just got a couple more questions that we can squeeze in, if that's okay. One is someone was asking about workshops, because you had the little bunny. Are the workshops available already? Is it something that you're working on at the moment?
Yes, I had one workshop already passed. It was in London, in Wide and Woolly. It was the first one. I have 2 in Lyon, in France, in September, and I have one coming in the Netherlands in October.
Okay.
So I don't think I'm going to make a lot, because I just don't have the freedom to travel everywhere. So it was the occasion to share a good moment. It's not something that I'm going to be able to propose too much along the year, but maybe at some point that could be online. Why not? So
Watch this space.
yes, yes. Anyway, I will keep them update on. For now, I only have Instagram. I also have a newsletter that I'm not sending a lot at the moment, but if you register, you will be up when I send it again.
Lovely. Yeah, we'll put a little link to your Instagram as well, and then people can
and the little bunny will be available as a pattern anyway.
So you don't need to go on the website.
So don't worry, it's not an exclusivity. So at some point you'll get the bunny, the tiny bunny.
And then we've got Caroline is asking, do you think that one could put like wire inside the animals so that they could pose?
I think it's doable. It would be maybe the wire with the stuff around. We said the chenille. I think
like
it's
a pipe, pipe cleaner.
Yes, maybe this could be done. If it's to play in a dollhouse or stuff like this, and that you really want to give shape, or if it's for picture or just to give them another position, I think this could be definitely used. But it's true that it will more easily come through the knitted fabric if it's to. I think it can be stuck in the stuffing, especially if the stuffing is firm like this. But this is something that I did not try personally.
Okay, well,
they're very good at sitting in little nooks. good at sitting.
Yes, sitting, if you want them to sit, that's something that you can set also when you're stuffing. If you think that you're going to use it more to sit, then you have to try to not stuff a lot at the junction between the bottom and the leg, and then it's going to be more easily seated. And if you think that you're going to enjoy having it standing, then you're going to stuff really more at this point. So it's also something you can think about when you're stuffing your animal.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Or maybe try the wire and, report back.
Yes.
Well. Let us know your findings, Caroline. Let us know how you get on.
Yes.
I've heard some people as well put like some beads or lentils or something a little bit heavy at the bottom.
Yes, I think you can, these little techniques are traditional techniques of doll making. So you can transfer other traditional techniques from doll makings to these characters. I think there's no problem.
And then we've got Kathleen is saying, thank you very much. And she's enjoyed the talk. And Mouche is on her needles as we've been speaking. So
that's wonderful. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh,
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Cinthia. It's been an absolute treat. And it's just, it's such a wonderful thing and wonderful and really unique thing that you do. So
thank you very much for inviting me. It was really, really great.
Not at all. And how many creatures are in the book for someone who hasn't got the book yet?
12 new characters are in the book. And it's not only the patterns, it's also a learning book. It's important to know there is a whole technical section with a lot of guidelines and help, and so this not only about patterns, it's also about learning stuff and being
comprehensive. The techniques section, it's not just a little bit at the end. It's
no, it's even at the beginning, and I really recommend to read it. I know it's not always easy to read the technical section, but it's nice to do, because then when you're in the patterns, you know where you're going to be able to come back, and not everything is going to be like crystal clear when you're going to read the technical section, but then you're going to remind about it when you're in the patterns. And in the patterns, you also have the reference to the technical section, so you can move from one to the other.
Something so complicated, you've done such a good job of just explaining it and breaking it all down. Definitely.
Thank you.
And Sarah is also reminding me to say that you've got lovely stories about all the animals as well, so you really bring them to life.
Yes, it was really an important point too, because it was really one of my goals to have these stories and not just to let the animals like this living together without any good reason to be together. So it was important to find their story. And it was also a wish to have the kids involved in using the book. If you have the book at home, it's really a book that kids can browse to. And it's funny because when I was at Wide and Woolly, a little girl came. She was about 4 years old, and she knew all the names from the characters, and it was like she was meeting old friends. And she had a little story read at bedtime, and it was really, really wonderful. And another girl came, and it was nice too, because I could see how she was encouraged to imagine her own stories for the characters her mom made for her. So it's really a sort of mechanism that is going on, and I'm really happy with this.
Beautiful. Well, what a nice note to end on.
Yeah.
I think Laura and I could sit here and listen to you for another 3 hours.
Imagine all the lovely characters.
Thank you very much, but I know you have a lot on your plate for the rest of the weekend.
Definitely. But thank you so much again for taking the time to join us. And I think I might have to get my book out and see who I'm going to cast. Are you going to?
Oh,
you haven't yet.
I haven't done one. I have a lot on my plate. But, like, I can't resist. They're just so
little
sweet. And I
threat.
love the technique you use for making them.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think everyone in the who's
definitely.
watching is like, I'm gonna make one.
There's a lot of love going on right now in the chat, which is brilliant. So we've just got one more session later on today, and that is our show and tell. So that is where we throw it open to all of you who've been kind of sitting at home crafting and listening to us this whole day long. So this is the bit where we get to sit back and see what you've all been making out there. And I am sure that we will have at least one of your creations will turn up, Cinthia. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to everybody who joined. It's really, I don't see you, but I feel you behind. So
if you turn on gallery view quickly, Cinthia, then you'll see them
about
all.
80 people.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We're waving at you.
Yeah, a lot have got their cameras on, so it's quite nice. Oh, the hedgehog's there. That's exciting.
Wonderful. I don't know if you see me waving, but I'm waving too. That's very intimidating. Hopefully I didn't turn it on before.
I know it is a little bit scary, but everyone's so kind, so it's lovely.
Yes.
Right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you. Have a nice day and Sunday. And
you too. Cheers.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Merci.
Goodbye. Merci.
Bye, everybody.